Welcome to another episode of 30 Minutes with DailyStraits.com. So, our guest today is Malaysian artist we have featured on the site before, Ahmad Fuad Osman. Besides being an artist, he is also the curator of a very successful exhibition known as Enrique de Malacca Memorial Project. So the project was such a hit that we've asked him to come to the show and tell us everything about Enrique and why he decided to set up the whole exhibition. So without further ado, let's bring Fuad to the show and ask him everything that we'd like to know about this historical figure. Hi Fuad, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you, June, for having me today.
Yes, as
Good. Yeah,
usual, thank you for joining us.
no
So,
problem.
let's dive right into the question. So, this project is it's 2016, right? Around 5 years old, right?
Started in 2016, but I must say that it's still ongoing because there are stuff that I'm still adding on until today. Just like a normal memorial or a museum, whenever you come across something that you feel fit in the collection, then I keep on putting it. There are things that I'm still looking for. So yeah, it's still going on.
Okay, great. So let's take it from the top. Right? Who is this guy, Enrique?
Okay, Enrique de Malacca. Everyone knows Magellan, I'm sure, right? Ferdinand Magellan, who is very famous because um, from his history, we know that Ferdinand Magellan was the first man to circumnavigate the world. But not many people remember or know that Magellan actually died in Mactan in 1521, 27 April 1521. He died there without completing the whole 360 degrees of circumnavigation. And Enrique was actually his a slave or his personal assistant, and he was captured in Malacca, or captured or bought. Until today, we don't really sure, but he was from Malacca. That's why he was called Enrique de Malacca. He is called Enrique de Malacca. So after the fall of Malacca in 1511, Magellan took Enrique with him back to Portugal, and then something happened, between Magellan and his king, and then he moved to Spain. And then from Spain in 1519, they made this epic voyage that's very famous, Armada de Moluccas, Armada de Molucca voyage. So that's Enrique that we know. He's from here. He's from Nusantara, but whether he's from Sumatra or Maluku, because he's being the subject of counterclaim between these three countries up until today, between Malaysia, Indonesia, and Philippines. So these are the things that makes me interested to go into this project. Yeah.
Okay, so he's around Malay. He's Malay, right?
He's Malay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So without this exhibition, right? I must be very honest with you. I wouldn't have known who Enrique de Malacca was, or because we have not really learned about him in history, but from past interviews I've read about you and this topic, you said that you actually found out about him while in history class. Is that right?
No, actually, I discovered him when I was around, I think, 16 years old. I discovered him through a small book. It's called Panglima Awang, written in 1957 and published in 1958. it was my mom's small book collections. So I read about this. Of course, the author changed his name, to localize it. So he named him Panglima Awang. So through this book, I know the existence of Enrique de Malacca, but of course, he doesn't mention anything about Enrique de Malacca. He just called him Panglima Awang. But the story itself was based on the story of Enrique, the history of Enrique. So for me, it left a very strong mark. Even though I was not an artist yet at that time, because I was still in school at that time, but it stuck inside me. Imagining that someone from this part of the world during that time, at the age of discovery, 16th century, the possibility of him being the first man to circumnavigate the world instead of Magellan himself and Elcano, because he was from here, and then they came back, in 1519 to this part of the world, Nusantara, and Magellan died, and he survived. That this thing, possibly could make him the first man to circumnavigate the world. But because of he's a slave, he's a Malay, he's someone from this part of the world, and the people who wrote history is, of course, from there, right? So these are the things that I found very interesting, so when I first read that, it stuck in me. But still nothing happened because I didn't involve in anything with arts anymore at that time. But in 2005, I moved my studio. I was already practicing artist at that time. I moved my studio from Kuala Lumpur to Malacca. So one of the main projects I wanted to delve into is this, because now I'm right in Malacca. So one of the first things that came up, pop up into my mind again was this. But when I started to do some research, I thought, wow, this is going to be quite a big project. I can't simply present him with just a piece of painting, a few prints, or a sculpture of him. It has to be more than that. So meaning that I need a lot of funding to do that, right? So the project just stay there, because I'm waiting for the right moment and all that, So until 2016, when I was approached by a curator of Singapore Biennale, they asked me if my work had something to do with Nusantara maritime history, So at that time, I don't have my work have nothing to do with that at all at that time, But I told them that I do have something in mind that I have been keeping for quite some time, that really deals with the maritime history, not just Nusantara, but the world, maritime history. So I wrote them the proposal, and they accept my proposal and they commissioned me. So that's how it happened. This whole project. Yeah.
So how long were you working on it? Like basically like 10 years?
The idea started, I had the idea to really work on this was, I mean, maybe around that, it's of course it's more than 5 years is inside me. But then in 2016, because of the time constraint, right? Because we have time frame to produce. because we need to present it in 2016. So I worked for it, I think around 6 months to produce. So, but of course, I work with a lot of assistants with me. You know, because I work in three countries at the time. I have to be in Jakarta, I have to be in Maluku, and then I have to go to Mactan, Cebu. Then I come back here, Kuala Lumpur, and then go back to my studio in Bali to you know, monitor all this production at one time. You know, so within yeah, basically I think we work for 5 to 6 months to produce all these objects, paintings, videos, and prints. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned, right, that in previous interview you had this idea and it didn't want to leave you. It kept nudging you, like forcing you, like, okay, you have to do something, you have to do something. Do you think like you were like the chosen one to bring his story out to the world? Because nobody actually knows him. He's not in the sejarah at all. Like, you know, in our history books, right? In our school books, he's not even a mention at all.
I can't say that I'm the chosen one to produce this. It's just that my interest is really big, you know, for this project, because like you said, it's stuck in me, right? I have to do this. I have to do something about this, because yeah, because one of the things is that not many people knows about this history. It's a kind of a hidden history. So I need to highlight this again. So one of the advantage of visual arts is that, you know, so we as a visual artist, we can make things visible, right? Because we deal with objects, we deal with something that we could see, we could experience visually. So for this project is a history. So now we as an artist, we have a freedom to reinterpret history visually. So with this, I think it's proven that through these projects, a lot of people came to know him. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people also came to me and asking me a lot of questions about him because of this, because they can see. Even before this, they just heard. You know, it's different, because now you can see, even though it's a mixture of fictional and it was based from the real history, you know. So it's a mixture of history and fiction, but somehow I managed to attract people's attention through this project, because they can really see all those objects, or all the paintings, the people around it, Jalan, and you know, and the whatever that happened, you know, between in the voyage, you know. So yeah, I think it's very important for an artist to take up this kind of projects, because of this we can visualize the things that because nowadays you just imagine if people want to read volumes of historical facts, you know. So I don't think this new generation especially, they won't spend too much time reading, you know. Everything is just visual right now. They want, you know, very easily, you know.
Okay, Fuad, tell me, how, like, you know, I've been to Malacca and there's always gravestone of Hang Tua, Hang Kasturi. There's no gravestone of Enrique Malacca when he's actually from Malacca. And then you said just now, right, you had to go to Jakarta, you had to go to Maluku, you had to go to so many places, right? Like, where do you start digging information about this guy when there's nothing? Like, there's hardly anything to begin with.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how did you start? Like, where did you go first? And also,
Um.
right,
Yeah.
does he have any descendants? Like any, or was he a single guy and then he didn't have
Some
any kids?
people, yeah, some people claim, some people claim that he have descendants. He do have descendants, but it's still a counterclaim because um, the claim a claim from Malaysia said that after he came back from Mactan after Magellan's death, he came back to because Malacca was at that time still under Portuguese. He cannot go back to Malacca, right? But he came back here and then he ended up joining the small community of Minangkabau people, they settled in Negeri Sembilan. So he was supposed to be in Negeri Sembilan, and his descendants supposed to be around Negeri Sembilan. They even have his grave. Actually, this one historian, she claimed that the grave that they discovered in Negeri Sembilan Rembau a few years ago was actually his grave, but a lot of people
Dispute.
dispute this claim also. And some people in Philippines, in Cebu, they also claim that after the death of Magellan, Enrique stayed on, and got married there and have family there. But until today, I still try to get them to get me in contact with all these descendants, but until today they cannot
Prove it.
they cannot prove it,
Okay.
but I'm still open,
Yeah.
to
Okay, tell
this
me how
all.
you, sorry to interrupt. How did you start finding information about this guy? Did you go on Google? Did you
Okay.
call the libraries?
First of all, of course, I mentioned earlier, right? I discovered him through this small book called Panglima Awang. That's where I came to know about the story of Enrique de Malacca, because this author, Harun Aminur Rashid, he mentioned that Panglima Awang was really based on a real history, the history of Enrique de Malacca. And excuse me. From there, I started my research, of course, in Malacca Museum, but they have nothing. I was really excited to go there, of course, expecting a lot of things, from Malacca Museum, but they have nothing. They have nothing. That's one of the reasons also I cannot push on my project at that time, 2005, 2006, at that time. And then when I started this project in 2016, the information is quite a lot already because the internet is already there, right? I can browse, I can Google about him, and then of course I went to Malaysian Archive, and then there's a lot of documentation also. The Portuguese documentations in Malaysian Archive, and then few other books, and then books from other writers also, and yes, if we are going straight to the story of Enrique de Malacca, I have to say that we don't have the story of Enrique de Malacca 100%. But what I did is that because within those 10 years from 1511, when he started his journey with Ferdinand Magellan, they were very close. He was very, very close to Magellan. So wherever Magellan went, and during that time, between 1511 until 1521, until Magellan's death, we could say that Enrique was always with him. So what I did was I just follow
Magellan.
Magellan's
Oh.
story, Magellan's
Uh-huh.
history, Magellan's voyage or whatever, right? So whenever wherever Magellan went, he was with him. So I just follow through with him, and then for the information about him, I can say that it's much easier today, even though we cannot really prove, and it's again it's a counterclaim, but it's still okay for me because my project is not about trying to prove that he is a Malaccan, whether he's from Maluku. It's not that. It's not that, So I just want to know. I just want to know about him, whether
Yeah.
he's from where and where he ended. I'm still open, and
So is Awang is Awang his Malay name, or
given by the author
but
of
what is his
Panglima.
real Malay name?
We don't
Don't
know.
know.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Oh, okay.
There's
And how did
one of the questions that I was seldom asked by the audience, because some Malay audience, of course, they wanted to retain his Malay name. Why did I call the museum of Panglima Awang?
oh
The
yeah.
project, the memorial of Panglima Awang. Why did I call it Enrique de Malacca? I said Panglima Awang is not his real name. It's a fictional name given by this author of Panglima Awang, Harun Aminur Rashid.
Mm.
Well, at least there's few documents. We can find a real name of him, right? Enrique de Malacca, given by this author
Magellan.
of
Oh,
given this author of few documents and a journal by like Antonio Pigafetta, who followed the voyage also with Magellan, So he mentioned Enrique de Malacca. So it's his name, even though it's Christian name, it's
yeah.
Enrique, but I still have to use a real name. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did Magellan and Enrique become friends and become very close? Did Magellan come to Malacca and then they met, or is that too much?
Ah, yeah. That's one of the most interesting thing for me, because you can see they are very, very close, and Enrique was very special to Magellan until his last will and testament. Magellan's last will and testament, he mentioned Enrique's name, that whenever and wherever that he died, automatically Enrique will be free, and he even gave Enrique 10,000 maravedis, if he died, So when he died in Mactan on the 27th April 1521, so he automatically be a free man, Enrique. But this very close relationship, I don't know why, but it kind of opened up some other possibility for me as an artist to reinterpret this situation, So
Yeah.
as a Malay from this part of the world, we have all this charm. We have we a mantra and all that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So I create, I imagine, right? I
Yeah.
imagine Enrique somehow had,
Mystic
used,
powers.
yeah.
Oh.
So
Oh
he
yeah. So
had used this talisman, this this charm to somehow made Magellan somehow, you know,
Like him.
you like him very
Yeah,
much,
because
you know.
Magellan is Portuguese, right? Is it
Yeah,
Portuguese?
Portuguese. Yes,
So
yes, yes.
I would wonder they would have a communication breakdown because one will be speaking Portuguese, another one
Yeah.
will be speaking Malay Kuno, and then like how do they communicate? You know?
At first, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Tell me. This for what? When my Enrique was alive, was it the same time as Hang Tuah, Hang Lekiu?
from what I heard from the documentation and all that, you know, from some of the historian, Hang Tuah was still around at that time, but he was already old. He was already around 80 years plus at that time, you know, while Enrique, when he was captured in 1511, he was only around 16 years old, you know, according to Magellan's will again. You know, he mentioned that in 1519, when they started the journey, Enrique was already around 26 years
Hmm.
old. So within 10 years, you know, so in 1511, Enrique was around 16 years old. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
why do you think the what are some of the interesting anecdotes you found about him? Did you find any proof that he had mystic powers?
Yeah. I don't have all that, you know. It's just that me as a visual artist, you know, trying to um, um, how do I say this? Because
Interpret him.
yeah, I
Mm.
have to interpret him in such a way that, because if you look at the just for example, the voyage itself for 3 years they undertook, from 1519 to 1521, until they reach Philippines. Yeah, it's not an easy voyage because it's a new route. They went through new route, you know. They went through the western route. Well, normally the voyage before that, from the Portuguese mariners and all that, they will normally took the eastern route. But because at one point Magellan left Portugal to Spain, and he was supported by a Spanish king, you know, he cannot go through the Portuguese route. So he had to propose a new route. And because he was one of the first believer of the world is actually round, he believed that, you know, if the world is really round, you know, it's the same. We can go right to the same point also if we go the other way around, right?
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So
Oh,
uh,
yep.
so um um sorry, I I lost
No
the
worries. Okay,
uh,
tell me like why all of us, right? Like some Malaysians, okay, like if I'll be very honest, right? If it wasn't for your exhibition, I wouldn't have known about him. So why has Malaysian history erased him?
it's not erased. It's there, but very small.
Yeah, but
Only
why?
um
Because it seems quite significant because he was a um, slave
yeah,
boy and he
yeah.
went around the world. And I think somewhere you've mentioned that he could have been the first one before Christopher Columbus.
Who?
Magellan, I mean,
Magellan
sorry, Enrique could have
after
after
Columbus. Yeah, after
after
Columbus.
Columbus. So the second person,
Yeah, but different route.
different
Different route.
route.
Yeah. And then this
Okay.
is like a full circle, you know,
Mhm.
which was never been done before Magellan, you know.
Okay. So,
And
but why is there very little mention about him in the history? Like we know
I
about
think I
Hang
think
Tuah.
I think one of the reasons is that not many um, not many documents documented his name. You know, I mean, he was a slave. Again, I say he was a
Yeah.
slave, you know. So whenever we talk about this circumnavigation, the history of circumnavigation and all that, nobody talk about him at that time, right? Nobody talk about him. So even for the local historian, I, I don't know. It's not many written
Yeah.
article about
Yeah.
him
Okay.
at that time. But now, if you look, if you Google about him, there's a lot. There's a lot already
Yeah.
about him. You know,
Thanks
there's a
to you,
lot.
I think.
Yeah.
Thanks to you.
I'm
Okay,
just
by
one
the
of
way,
them.
what was your initial intention of doing this? What did you expect to achieve from the exhibition?
First of all, I wanted to know. I must have wanted to know about him more. You
Oh,
know,
okay.
yeah, I
Yeah.
must have wanted to know more about him. So in the process of learning about him, why not? Why not? Because I'm a visual artist. Why not?
Mm.
I compile all these materials, you know, and represent it again visually, you know. So instead of just me learning about this lost character, and
Mm.
then why not I represent it again, you know, to share it with the public, with the audience. So that's what I thought. Um, Instead of just documenting in a proper way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, what's next in this exhibition? You said um it's still ongoing, right? It's not
yep,
done.
yep, yep.
So what is next? Like after this, now is COVID, you're stuck in KL. And then once COVID dies down and things go back to normal, hopefully. So are you planning to go on the road again? Because you've taken it to Sharjah, you've
Yep.
taken it to Singapore. This exhibition has brought you to a lot of places. So
Yeah,
what's next
hopefully.
for it?
Yeah, hopefully we can set sail again, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can go around again. And I mean, apart from just this project, because for me, I think this project um, not much anymore. If I'm adding on to this particular project, it's just few more things, you know. So I could just do it along the way, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
what I'm looking for after this project, you know, because through this project I discovered a lot more interesting uh, and possible projects, you know, that
Oh.
came out through this Enrique project, you know. So
Oh.
I can expand more projects just because of this, you know. So that's what I'm looking into now, because
Okay.
there's also history of Dutch VOC,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, Dutch East India Company, because this one is Portuguese, and then after Portuguese, Dutch came, right?
Mm.
So yeah, and then from Dutch we have a British came, so there's a lot more coming in,
Mm.
right? So we can see the history of Southeast Asia, you know. But for me personally, I'm going deeper into the history of Southeast Asia through this Enrique project. Yeah.
Okay, great. Was it hard to stage this exhibition? Because when you started, right, you had nothing, like basically no leads, but then you look at you now. But initially, was it hard to stage it?
Yeah, because first of all, the scale of it is a museum like, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm also trying to retain the scale and the value of the exhibit, you know. It cannot be simply exhibit anywhere, right? Because
Oh,
it's supposed to be in a museum space, Even if it's a temporary space, we have to really look at the kind of space that we are going to, because the space itself will enhance the work or it will kill the work, you know. Yeah, so that's just the space itself, you know, not considering the logistic of it, because I have now, I think when we pack for the show, I have now around 23 big crates already,
Wow.
you know.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's not easy. So we are talking, of course, about the costing also, right?
Hmm.
Logistic and the yeah, everything.
Okay, one final question. Okay, so one anecdote that you can share to the listeners about Enrique that's not out there, but you discovered, and it's something new.
Wow. What can I say? Anecdote.
Or maybe a thing that we didn't know about him, like something that we didn't know about him. Was he tall? Was he handsome?
We don't know. The thing is, that's why reinterpret it myself. You know, the work is my version of him, right?
Mhm.
The work is my
Okay.
version of him. So if it's an anecdote, really, I don't know. I mean,
What about
yeah.
physical appearance? Was he like
Yeah, okay. For the physical appearance, for the Indonesian historian, because they really believe strongly that he came from Maluku itself, the source of the spice. And if he came from Maluku, and he was from Maluku, and then he went to Sumatra for a while, and then from Sumatra, and he moved to Malacca, and from Malacca, Magellan got him, right? And then the Indonesian historian, believed that if he was from Maluku, his feature must have been like a bit more like a Papua New Guinea look,
Oh, okay.
you know,
Okay,
more
okay.
like Australian
Uh,
Aborigines, right?
okay.
But for me, I have to think of trying to free him a bit more, in the
Mm,
sense of I don't want to locate him in just one geographical reference, right? So if I choose to present him like a Papua New Guinea, we know already that he was, you know, from that part of the world. But I wanted to retain the interesting part of this counterclay between Malaysia, Indonesia,
mm,
and the Philippines. You know, so how do I present him without trying to be up or to locate him, you know, being
mm.
a Malaysian or a Filipino or Indonesian. So I have to choose the feature that could represent him, uh, that he could possibly came from. Whether if you believe that he's from Philippines, yes, my character, he could still be from Philippines, right? If he's
Oh,
Malaysian, you know, my character could still be Malaysian. So if
mm,
he's from Indonesia, he still could be from Indonesia. So those are the things that I have to think, you know, how to present him. And I think some of the challenges that I have to face during the production period was, you know, that, you know.
oh. But
Yeah,
Nusantara those days was one big country, right? We didn't have
yeah,
Indonesia, Filipina. We were just like
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Okay,
right.
cool.
So yeah, yeah.
All right, so that is all the time that we have for today. We have been speaking to a very renowned Malaysian artist, Ahmad Fuad Osman, who is also responsible for the Enrique de Malacca Memorial Project. Do Google it out. And thank you, Fuad, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me again. Thank you. See you next time.
Awesome. Yeah, be sure to join us next week where we aim to interview another awesome on individual from around the world. Thank you very
Uh,
much.